some other type of route that a person can take, and it doesn't matter if the person is black or male or female or is disabled or anything like that. So this is why I'm really pushing for legislation. And even if the legislation that I would like to see in place was attached to the Occupational Safety and Health Act that says that certain types of behaviors that are considered bullying or harassment would not be tolerated in organizations. So instead of identifying a person based on what their physical characteristics, it would say this particular legislation covers all employees, because all employees have the right to go to work and to be treated with respect and not have to put up with bullying. That legislation doesn't exist now, so if I am your boss or if I'm a colleague of yours, I can treat you any way I want, and there's not much you can do.
You're right for bullying, but what happens when that bullying turns to fraud and corruption and conspiracy and, targeting someone's life or haunting or terrorizing someone's life forever?
Right, and the thing is that I'm a firm believer that this is where you have to take control and say enough is enough, and I'm going to put an end to it, and therefore these are the steps I'm going to take. I've gone the route of HR. Now I'm pursuing it on a legal matter. So perhaps you could sue on the basis of emotional distress, but you really have to prove that the attitudes and behaviors are directly related to the stress that you're experiencing. If you can't make that link, then if you go before the judge will throw your case out. And then once again, you're left with nothing to do, right? Unless you can work it out where the organization decides that they will settle with you and go through arbitration or mediation, and they are willing to say, they may not admit fault, but they're willing to settle with you so that you can part ways and you go your way and they go their way. But the problem with that is the issue of workplace bullying never gets addressed.
Right.
It's a matter of just keeping that person's mouth shut.
You're always band-aiding the situation.
Exactly. But, I find that with workplace harassment and workplace bullying, because it's subjective, that some lawmakers and some organizations may think that there isn't a need for such legislation. However, that same argument was made when sexual harassment came onto the scene, because people were not quite sure, well, what does it mean? And it wasn't until we identified attitudes and behaviors and said, these are what would be considered sexual harassment, then people realized, all right, this attitude, this behavior is not acceptable. So, but because workplace bullying is running rampant in our organizations and it's not going to end anytime soon, we really need to push for legislation. And just so that you know, to put this in perspective, research has shown that only 1.4% of bullies are ever terminated, let go, or quit. 44% of targeted people lose their jobs. So that statistic alone lets you know that there are quite a few bullies in workplaces, all types of industries. And so workplace bullies are not going to go away anytime soon until they are forced to do so by legislation, federal and state legislation.
But see, that's the scary part about the legislation, because, a lot of times these legislators or these political people, they are being financed by these corporations that house these bullies. And so therefore, when someone tries to go up against them, they turn a blind eye, knowing that, deaths occur, suicides, homicides, workplace violence, and so forth, oftentimes as a result of it. So they will turn a blind eye because these corporations are lining their pockets.
Oh, yes, and we see that. That's why we continue to see racism in the workplace, discrimination in the workplace, sexual harassment in the workplace, because some organizations are clearly paying lip service to it. But that doesn't say that legislation would not protect certain individuals and give them an avenue to pursue. Right now, bullied employees have no avenue. They have no choice. Yes, they can quit their job. Yes, they could stay in that organization and not say anything.
And remain miserable like
exactly.
like your lady Jody Zabel. We have about 30 seconds to break. When we come back, I want to talk about your chapter in your book, The Ultimate Price of Bullying, and why you won't stop fighting for workplace abuse. And, you know, when someone is extremely bullied, you know, sometimes it's just not easy to let go, because when someone tells you they'll haunt you forever, that's exactly what they're doing. But we'll be back. We're going to talk about Jody Zabel and a few other things in your book when we